Hi, Sachin.
Hey, Dinkar.
So, Sachin, as I'm going and talking to more and more folks about EEBO metrics, sometimes in context of ThoughtWorks Polaris, sometimes just in the context of EEBO metrics by itself, I'm realizing that different organizations are at different levels in the journey towards adoption. And of course, what we are talking about is not something totally new. People have been trying these kind of things, maybe not articulated in this manner, not probably packaged in this manner or presented in this manner, but people have been doing things here and there. And I'm noticing that there is in some way a maturity model which is emerging. And as we discussed, maybe let's talk about that maturity model today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. This is something which is many people have talked about in terms of they want to do it, but they don't know how. And I also feel that EEBO, which is that engineering excellence to business outcomes, and the Polaris is one of the tools which we have developed within ThoughtWorks. So all of these are just like one step closer, but there are other angles which we need to explore. So yes, absolutely. Let's talk.
So let me start by sharing the screen, and we'll walk through these 4 stages, right? So one thing that I've noticed is when we go and talk to various organizations, the one which are kind of at the beginning of the maturity level, these are the folks who are on lookout of a tool. And the common thing that I hear is we need a tool. If we get the tool, all problem will be fixed, right? So in their mind, the only thing missing between them and excellence, engineering excellence, which is driving towards business outcome, is I don't have this tool. And once I have this tool, everything will be okay. Because these are the organizations which probably do not have very systematic manner of collecting data. What's your experience with these kind of organizations?
The tool is because it's a simple way to say, I need this and it will solve my problem. And typically I have seen it happens in 2 ways. It's either that they have certain metrics in their mind and they are searching for a tool which supplies these metrics to them. And they say, if I start tracking these metrics and this is the tool which I get, or this philosophy which I adopt, my problems will be solved. But as soon as they get onto tool, they realize that these tools are, they need that data stream.
Right.
And that data stream is a function of certain foundations to be available within the system. Right. For getting lead time, you need to have a CI/CD pipeline. You can't do lead time without that. Or do you do continuous deployment? Or do you have a major way to measure your downtime? All of these, if you don't have, then the tool is going to be completely useless. Right. And sometimes these in enterprises, we have discussed this a couple of times. These challenges are to access this data and reliably access this data again and again. So yeah, I completely agree with the first 2 blocks.
And you call out a very important point, right? Because when an organization in the stage that I need a tool, right, there is somehow this expectation that there is this magical tool. I'll come, we'll install it, and voila, everything will be solved. Data will be available, right? And that is where, the complexity of their CI/CD pipelines, how their tools are organized, what's that phrase? You say that no 2 pipelines are configured same.
Yeah. We tried it, right? When Polaris, which is a very simple tool which goes and collects this data, Just like no two projects in Jira are configured the same, no two pipelines in Jira as Jenkins are configured the same.
And when people have these kind of tools, not just Polaris, even if you take something as simple as Hygia, which allows you to connect to anything and create any kind of visualizations, it becomes a nightmare, right? So the first hurdle that the organization that it needs to cross is not actually so much as buy the tool or build the tool or acquire a tool. It is to get the tool working with all their systems and have the data start coming in. And once that starts coming in, the second level of maturity kicks in, where the most common thing that I've heard is that people will come and say, I want this metric. Once I have this metric, I will be able to figure out how to achieve engineering excellence. And the tricky part here is that this tool or team is serving 15 departments, 40 teams, 300 streams, and everyone starts coming in, and suddenly the whole dashboard is full of all these different metrics which different teams felt are important for them. And one thing I've noticed, Sachin, in that scenario is, which kind of leads into the next level of maturity, is that when your screen is full of metrics, the most common thing, not to badmouth project managers, right? But the most common thing for people to do is, okay, what is in stage red, what is amber, and what is green? And what this RAG status immediately does is that it ensures everyone's focus is on first things which are red. What that means is that I have a dashboard, it's 3-4 dashboards, 4-5 screens, and whenever there's a red, as before going into, let's say, a meeting with the executives or presenting it to someone, 3-4 days before, my whole focus is, what is this red? What is this red? What is this red? Why is this red? What is going on? Who's at fault? I'm trying to figure out what is in the red. What can I explain about this? Whole focus is on red, right? Then what happens is things which are in amber, right? They get ignored because it's not red yet. There are other reds that are. And worst thing, the greens, there is no deep dive into why is this green? Why is this working out very well? So we are never learning from things we are doing right. We are focusing on figuring out what we are doing wrong, putting a band-aid on top of it so the red becomes an ember. And I was talking to someone and we were looking at, I'll discuss with you later what that dashboard was, but there is this dashboard that is shared with us over a long period of time. I have never noticed anything which was amber go into green. Most of the embers are going into red because they're almost right. Ember means red in waiting. We have not paid attention to you yet because there is a red. As soon as I handle that red, one of the other embers go into green. So when people have this stage where they're looking at, I want this metric, this leads to a deluge of metrics. It leads to a confusion of metrics. And then people don't know what to look at where, and the RAG status comes in, and you start hitting at things which are red, and that leads to this whole scenario. What's your experience? I know you have some interesting stories to tell there.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. In fact, the one analogy which I was talking to you the other day as well is, I feel for the first 3 blocks, and we'll go to the 4th one, right? The 4th one is the crux to me. But I don't want to go block by block. So the story is cohesive. Whenever I was thinking about these EEBO metrics and the tools and how the metrics should be done, I can't help but think about sports watches. Nowadays, like the fitness watches are extremely cheap. You can get it at for less than like $50, right? And when you get that or the high-end one, people buy that and put it on their wrist. And suddenly they feel that, okay, they are taking one step towards fitness. But buying a watch is not going to make you fit. Neither you are going to
probably only shopping therapy for a few moments, nothing beyond that.
Correct. So buying a tool or deploying a tool within your infrastructure is like buying a watch and expecting you are going to get fit. You still need to figure out what are the metrics which are going to make you fit. For example, if I want to lose weight and that is my goal, then probably I need to figure out what I eat more than what calories I'm burning. Yes, you burn calories, but most calories you are anyway eating and then not burning at all. So food
this is, for example, you're not recommending us, diet.
Not qualified at all. Not qualified at all.
This is not like Sachin's
not qualified
diet plan.
They're not qualified at all. I mean, like I keep cheating on my diet all the time. But if I want to get better at swimming, let's say, then there are a different set of metrics which I need to focus on. And for running, different set of metrics. So I want to go back to your point, which is finding the right metrics rather than just like the watch can measure, let's say, 600 things. But rather than actually putting 600 things, you need only 3 to figure out what is your focus. Then you need to be able to put all these 3 metrics or 10 metrics or 4 metrics. If you go 50, it is very hard for you to create a cohesive around 50. But then you identify what are they indicating to you. And then what I realized, Dinkar, even when you are today talking and the other day we were talking, not to bash project managers again, but it is not their fault.
Sorry to interrupt your thought. Maybe we should invite a project manager at some point.
We should. We should. Yeah. My feeling is that the reason is intent. When you are actually creating any dashboard, you and I have created multiple presentations in our life. What we are doing is, Dinkar, we are trying to find out what is that intent which customer has or the audience has. And then we tailor our material specifically to that. Contrary to this podcast, right? We are just like feeling this is what we want to talk to community and this is what we are talking. So there is no initiation from the audience. This is we putting our thoughts onto audience. So this is much more free form, right? This is what our opinion is going out. But when we are creating a dashboard, we are serving an intent which is anticipated by the managers or the team. And it is a reflection of what the leaders have asked them for. If leaders said, hey, I want to identify what is blocking my progress to release this software to production, they are going to put only metrics which will say we are doing good. Yeah. But if you are saying, I want to find out who is not performing, I want to find all the teammates who are not performing, you will see suddenly commits per day, number of lines written, what is their test coverage per person, and then team metrics, and all those things will start populating onto dashboard. So the purpose should not be internal. The purpose should not be thinking, how do I do this versus that versus that versus that? And that's why it is important. What is the purpose? The purpose is the outcome, what you want to achieve. For me, if I buy a watch, Apple Watch, the outcome should be, I want to start like running a marathon at a pace which is X. Like I want to complete a marathon in 3 hours, 30 minutes. But then my goal is to actually finish a 10K in 1 hour in next 6 months to achieve that. And that is an outcome which I want to achieve. That can be achieved by 10 watches available on the market. And for the watch is not even helping you. It is just a measurement tool, right? The strength training you will have, the diet you will have, the rigor of waking up in the morning and going out and running, that is going to make you fit, right? So the act of buying a tool, putting certain metrics in it, telling a cohesive story is very critical and important piece. But people should focus that the intent is going to drive all of this and decide whether this is going to fail spectacularly or whether this is going to become even 5% successful. Right. So, we see, Dinkar, people struggle in each of these pillars.
Yeah. So the story till now, the first level, entry level of maturity is we need a tool.
Correct.
And then they get the tool, then they say, hey, and let me try to correlate it with the intent, right? Hey, we need a tool, and if the intent is not clear, that's where people start suspecting, oh my God, this tool is going to be used to pinpoint who's doing what. And maybe
Exactly.
get used for their performance, or maybe worse, it will be used to fire them. And this is where a lot of resistance to tool comes in. That's why so many organizations don't have tool. They may get a tool, then the resistance to connecting it to data sources come into picture because, my God, and if let's say that also happens, then teams will not onboard it because let me first see what kind of data comes before I expose it to someone else and someone takes some kind of decision. So all these roadblocks, and that's why the first maturity level is the toughest to cross. Now that you've done everything, now if you say that, hey, believe me, we don't want to measure a person, we don't want to tie this to their annual salary and bonus. We want to understand this as a team so we can understand how the team is performing. That's when can I have this metric, because somewhere in the team leadership say that for my kind of product, in my kind of situation, this is the metric that will actually show, quote unquote, my reality, right? And then they say, can you add this metric? But someone else will come, what, in for my kind of product, for my team size, and at the stage where we are, this metric is misleading, but can you add that metric? And suddenly that's how you get these deluge of metrics, right? Comes a third situation where now you have got so many metrics, and executives looking here and there and saying, what do I look at? Because if you're not build a cohesive story around what these metrics mean, people go and look at red. They count the number of red or whatever that executive kind of fancies, says, okay, this is red. Now for next 3 months, I want to see this red go from red. And suddenly which kind of, it's a toss up, like, you throw so many metrics up and one of them will stick. And in that conversation, people stick to that. So then people's third level of maturity, they say that, okay, we have been collecting so many data. How do we tell a cohesive story about our organization? This is where we bring out one thing. And, that was one of the reasons why we kind of said that the low, medium, high, and elite in DORA 4 key metrics is kind of misleading, because in a different industry, there would be different kind of results for different kind of product that industry is making. Maybe that industry, that product is something around retail. This product is something which is a business middleware. This product is probably a data platform. This product contains personal information of clients. All of them will progress at a different level. They will go through different gates of regulations, quality. Some of them can experiment with A and B testing. Some of them, once they go out, they become the norm. The data platform, you put out something, it will affect 50, 60 other systems. You can't go to tell them, no, we were doing A/B testing. Now we have totally changed what information this API sends, right? So then what starts happening is people start realizing, hey, you know what, this metric does not tell my story because this is what my product is like. And then suddenly the organization comes at a stage where they say that I have all this story now. Looking at all these metrics, how do I build a cohesive story that reflects the true maturity or the true level of engineering excellence? I don't want to go and make everyone look good, but I really genuinely want to know which one is really doing good and which one is not doing good, so I can help the team which is not doing good. And this is a third level of maturity where they have now gotten over this, I want, kind of a, teenager state, just a digression. I had a boss at Fermilab, and we used to go and say, we need this kind of equipment. We got this kind of equipment. I need this kind of laptop. She used to say, "You sound like my teenager, right? They're always wanting something. I want this fun, this fun stuff, right?" That's how people go with metrics. I want this. Can I have this? Can I have this? Once they've gotten over this stage, they said, okay, we have enough. Now, what is the cohesive story coming out of it? That is where they want to do some analysis out of it. They want to figure out that out of these 50, what can we do about it? And this is where, the step towards the fourth one comes into the picture, right? Which is, I give an example, right? If I'm driving over a mud, sometimes the wheels kind of get stuck in the mud. So the wheel is rotating at a very good speed, very efficiency, everything is going, but it's stuck on the mud and the car is not going anywhere, right? That's the problem. If you just take your your engineering metrics and you just make sure they are perfect, the engineering team is doing very good, they're churning out the code and they're doing everything very well, no security issues, no tech, very less tech debt, minimal security issues, but they're not leading to any business outcome. And this is where contextualizing and aligning to a business outcome becomes very important. And this is the fourth and final level of maturity of an organization which is on their journey for adoption of EEBO metrics.
Absolutely. And Dinkar, you put it very well. My worry is always that when somebody says, I want to measure these 10 metrics, right, is I am okay that they have like 20 metrics as an exploratory data analytics to build that cohesive story. I'm okay with that. So they, let's say that lead time is one metric which they have figured out, and they find that lead time is not aligning with my business outcome, which is, let's say, monthly active users. I kept releasing features, but then I'm not seeing a jump into these monthly active users. That's the story. Now, to support or build a hypothesis and validate it, if you want to do, let's say, like, where is that other data? What else I can do? And all that stuff. By all means, do it. But then people are so tuned to this click through and drill down and that methodology is like, I should be able to click on this and it should give me this. And then it should, but that is so transient. Next time you will hit another bump, but then nobody will delete this metric because they will say, hey, this metric is already there. Let's keep it there. But then that creates such a noise in the system that
metric debt.
Yes, you have now metric debt. We coined a new term here. So suddenly you have these metrics which serve very little value. They add so much noise, and they are a constant distraction from focusing on the outcomes. And my feeling is we need to make sure that teams understand that why they are even measuring. What is the purpose? What is the intent? Am I measuring for increasing the effectiveness? Am I measuring for increasing my business impact or expand my business? What is the goal? Or I'm just finding out who's to blame. And that is the driving factor behind all these. I mean, the EEBO wouldn't even exist if people wouldn't have misused metrics for so long.
Yeah, true. I was so uncanny. I was talking to someone yesterday on a very similar topic, and they also made it a point that to call out that the purpose of these is not to go and tie it to a performance review of a person. But I said, you know what, and this is my biggest fear, right? You're not doing it today. The tool is not intended for that purpose. Maybe you have blocked access to data, but at some point, let's say tomorrow, some new boss person comes in and says, I want that data. The moment you have the data, there is a possibility that someone will come who has the right authority and will come and start asking for that data. What are you going to do then? And what I've started proposing to everyone is, if you don't have it, you're not obligated to share it. You just don't, just stop collecting all this data, right? If your intention is that I'm going to focus on team data, start anonymizing the individual data. If your focus is, I'm going to focus only on these 20, then stop collecting the rest of them. Don't have this, just metrics lying around. And because at some point there is a cost to everything, right? There is a cost on infrastructure. There's a cost on maintaining those things. So just a quick recap. So, focus on.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
One point, right? I couldn't resist but say this thing, and that's where the intent came into picture. Dinkar, I don't even mind collecting all sorts of data. I would like to say that you collect whatever data you like. I don't have a like philosophical issue with it. You can collect any granular data you want, but then the EEBO part, why it excites me so much, why I believe we should be thinking more, talking more, generalizing the whole effort that out of whatever number of episodes we have done, we talked about business value for half of those. I can guarantee, without even counting that. This requires a cultural shift. This is what people try to do with Agile, right? Is rather than waterfall, where all steps seems like, hey, you can't move to development until you have done analysis fully. And the process takes over people's, like, how people actually operate. That to address that, they created Agile. Something similar is what is EEBO. You create outcome-focused culture of your engineering teams. Rather than focusing on test coverage, rather than on how many lines of code was written, you focus on what is Sachin achieving.
Yeah.
If you focus that, and that's a cultural shift, that's the intent. And the intent is not at a micro level, like, hey, I want to figure out all the developers, how many commits are done per day. But the intent is at an org level or the unit level, where we say, we don't care. Okay, you may be working for half an hour, but I do want to make sure that all of my developers are writing the best code and they are making the best impact to my customers. And that is the shift it should move to.
And that is where excellence comes. Excellence does not come in how those things are important. Those things bring discipline. They have their advantage, but that is not the definition of excellence. Definition of excellence is what I did led to the desired outcome, right? It's simply as simple as that. And, we get so focused on creating these local optimas that my coding is so good and my testing is so good. This is so good. This is so good. And, and the business is sitting and getting like, what am I getting out of IT? Right? IT. And you have been part of those conversations where, I want to say that one of the business leader did ask me, right? IT just creates jobs for tasks, jobs for itself, so they can stay busy. And, this is a growing feeling among a lot of business leaders, because while IT is working hard, they're bringing in excellence, they're bringing in best practices, they're pushing their engineers to do best of, the standards. They are not creating that alignment to the business outcomes. And hence, this is operating in one space, this is operating in another space. Both are living in their own world within the same organization reality, but it's brutal. They are, two different organizations living in their own worlds.
Agreed. I mean, that's the whole problem which we are actually facing today, is people are measuring things which serve a purpose of just like defending their position or showing they are doing good, rather than making sure that, hey, as a group of people, we have agreed something to happen and we are or we are not achieving this. And these are the blocking factors. I think the conversation needs to go to that level. The intent has to be clarified to that way, so the organizations can move faster, I would say.
So our message is, it's a journey. Yes, you may be at a stage where tool makes all the difference. Maybe you are at a stage where gathering data is very important. Maybe you are at a stage where, figuring out what information this data tells, what cohesive story comes out of it. It's okay where you are, as long as your aim is to move towards, we need to align to a business outcome, and our engineering excellence should contribute to a business outcome. Otherwise, we are a wheel which is just going round and round on a muddy patch. And with that, this was a very good conversation, Sachin. Thanks. And
thank you so much.
see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.